Internet, how's it going? I think we're going to do some coding in Xamarin Forms, or actually in Xamarin Mac. I'm going to take these headphones off now. I think my audio levels are okay. If anybody's in the chat and wants to comment on audio levels, let me know if they're bad or not. This is my first stream, so apologize if it's a little crazy here. But when I was at Microsoft's headquarters for Build this past week, I was working on a Xamarin Mac application. I want to kind of clean it up and get it over on GitHub. So I was working on it myself and then figured, why would I do this on myself if I can just like stream it? So why not? So I've got this is a Xamarin Mac application. It's a reference app. And I've got kind of going here. We've got some stuff going on. Let's just kind of compile it and see what happens, see how it runs right now. It's all right. I've made some changes to it since it was last on the stream. For channel 9, I went through and changed out the title bars a little bit. The buttons I didn't like. They were I had an overview on the left, and it's kind of like a master detail. Wasn't really a fan of that UI, so I made it more like a realistic UI. Now, of course, I'm not a graphic artist at all, so there's no way possible I was going to go ahead and waste time doing that, trying to build graphic artist stuff. So, but it's called that free icon pack. That's called Font Awesome. That's what it's called. Went and grabbed icons from Font Awesome. So, of course, CPU is like dying on this laptop and melting. So that's a bad sign. Compiling. I am video buffering. Look at that. So, yeah, I'm used to having a way more powerful machine than this doing this. So this is a very interesting thing to see, is that compiling is killing this thing altogether. I can see my system CPU is at like 95%, and that's probably affecting the quality on Twitch. That is, that's a big bummer. Got to get that new laptop sooner than later, I guess. And I can't do this on my PC because it's a Mac app, so I couldn't do it there either. I guess we'll see what happens. I'll continue to try to struggle through this and see if this will build or not. But what this is a Xamarin Mac application, and we can hopefully we'll get running here in a second. And once it's up and running, kind of demo it. I don't see anybody here watching this stream, so it's like it's just me testing some audio and stuff. That is okay. It's a Friday at 5. It's code 30 somewhere, right? So let's see here. We're running. Where's my app showing up at? There it is. Yay. All right. So yeah, we have an app running here. You can see I've got some environments showing up here. You can kind of select the environment. So this is an NS outline view. You can kind of select them. It'll populate stuff in it. You can show text. It will show you the text. If you hide it, hides it. As we're swapping through, you can see it's swapping values dynamically. I don't got this delete button working yet. You can swap views out. So you can see here, if I click the person icon, it switches me out. Now it's supposed to switch this over here, and I didn't do that yet. And then this is the group view, and then this is the project management view. So there's a lot of work to do yet on this. But I want to get this out to the point where I can ship it out to GitHub and people can see it and play around with the code for Xamarin Mac. So that's why I'm kind of streaming this to see, as I'm working on this, I figure I might as well, anybody who wants to watch along or play along or ask any questions on Xamarin Mac, that's pretty great. So I think, I'm just looking at it, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the user profile here, and I'm going to take this information and put it over here. And so I'm going to make another controller over here, move this information over here, make this a different, well, I'll keep this the same controller. But what will happen is I want this to be the user profile where this has like your department, your division in SharePoint, all that kind of crazy stuff that you can kind of get out of SharePoint. And I want to get this out of being hard-coded. Of course, I'm mocking it right now, but eventually I want to get this out of hard-coding and hit SharePoint Online. I don't think we're going to get to that today. But I think if I can get at least this out and get some of those other fields with the user object in, I think that that's going to be pretty cool. So we'll try that. And I think also what we can do is we can work on getting this delete button working, where it's basically going to delete this. Now, there's some trickery to all this. Like, for example, the show text box, how this works, from what I was reading, is that there's no way to mask this right now and in Cocoa or in AppKit. So the recommendation approach that I was reading on the internet, through several different forums postings and stuff, was you basically have 2 copies of the text field, and the show and hide text swaps between them, and so that's how the code works right now. It's definitely trickery to say the least, but it does work. You can't tell that there's 2 text boxes there. When it swaps out, it looks pretty much natural, so I think that that's okay. We can see here the rest of these should just be working without problems. All right, so I don't. Also, the idle code is not 100% wired up yet. I didn't want to do that. I was a fear at the channel 9 that if I did that, I might accidentally leak a token for work, and that was going to be really bad. So I was like, well, I guess I won't do that. So let's stop talking and start coding. So we'll just go ahead and close the debugger out and take a look at this. So I'm going to go into the storyboard file. Well, first, let's go take a look at our views. So if we look here, what we're talking about is we got some graph stuff here. We have the graph, profile, view controller, and then we have the master view controller. The master view controller is, technically speaking, the item on the left, and then this should be the item on the right. And the problem, I believe, is I just don't have it wired up to swap out. So let's go look at that in the... I'm going to edit this storyboard file. That's where all the UI is stored in Mac. With AppKit. So there is no editor that's built into Visual Studio for the Mac for Mac applications. The only way to really do this is in Xcode. I don't have a problem with that. Xcode's pretty nice, actually. So for me, that's actually a blessing, because the editor tends to be really, really good in Xcode. That's how you build all Mac applications. There is a weird bug where the storyboard file comes open first, but if you make any changes in here, it doesn't work. The changes aren't seen any if you save, and I think it's because this window's still open in the back. So my workflow is right now is I just literally kill the window the second that I open it. So I kill it, and I go to this one, and I browse for my storyboard file here. And when I open it here, any changes I make here seem to work. And so we can see here, we should have our storyboard file open, and we have all kinds of crazy UI. So, yep, we can see here this is all starting to make sense. So you can see here I have a split view controller. Split view controller is going in and saying, hey, anytime you click on this, bring this view controller up. Here is my user one, and we can go check that to make sure that's it. So that's the graph, user, profile, master view controller. And so what's happening is when we click the button up here in the title bar, if we go up here and look, when we click this button, we want to wire that in so that it calls this view controller up instead. That's not too terribly difficult. I already have that swap code out there. So since these views are already created, there shouldn't be a huge amount of work to go through and do that. Let's see here. So if we wanted to do that, let's go take a look here. So theoretically speaking, we have this main Windows view controller. Its job is to run the windows. So you can see here, anytime we click one of those buttons, it's sending a message. And it's sending a message right now to anybody who wants to listen to it. So that's kind of how I'm handling all the communication between view controllers. And that's not probably the pattern that a Cocoa developer would write or a Swift developer native would write. But honestly, the messaging pattern inside of C# is so nice and so easy, especially with actions and stuff. I make the argument of why wouldn't you? Token-based system, low chance of leaking memory. You have to deal with the .NET events. There's a lot of reasons why I think that that's a good way to handle this. So from the main window controller, what ends up happening in this application is then we go to the split view controller. And this we definitely can see here, then this is where we're handling messages. So for example here, we have a string of a key for the load user profile message. And so how the messaging framework that I'm using right now, that a buddy of mine, quite a long time ago, I worked with Jacob, he wrote, and he's super smart Xamarin developer, and I've made small tweaks to this over since we've been using this thing, but I mean, this also code's been tested and tried for a very long time. It's a very simple concept for the messaging framework that we have running, and it's over here in the messages area of the shared library. It's a very simple, subscribe to it and publish it. It's a very simple pattern. So we need a key to get the message out, and so I'm just making the key here. We have the token that we need. This is going to keep a pointer so we don't lose ourselves from the garbage collector. And what ends up happening is we set our action to the method that we want to run. So for example, when load user profile, we're going to run this method. And then all we have to do is go into the messaging framework and subscribe to the message type, give it a key. This is so we can find it in the collection. And then of course the method that we want to fire, or the action. And that action then of course links over to here, and that's the token that we do here. So if you've ever done like with Prism, that's a very popular framework for doing this, and MVVM Cross, they're both their messaging frameworks work similar. I wouldn't say they're 100% the same as this, but it's close enough. So we can see here right now we have a swap view method that we run, and so anytime the user profile is clicked, we get a get view controller by key, and we run this swap view controller. So if we go look at that, what's happening here? We're saying, hey, if we go get view controller by key, we go look for one, we find it, we instantiate it. So, and then we swap it right here. So this is where we want to make our change right now. So we can see here that we're basically saying position 2 versus 1. So it looks like all these we're sending in with position 1. Excuse me, it would be 0 or 1, because it's 0 would be on the left, 1 would be on the right. So if I look at the method I have for the user profile, which is right here, I'm swapping the one over on the right, and I'm swapping it with this identifier key. So the graph profile view controller identifier key. So the first thing I'd want to do is I'd want to go find the UI for the master one. And I need to make a key for this. So you can see here, this is this class, right? Now, what is this key stuff? Why do I need a key? This all sounds kind of confusing, right? Sort of. The storyboard file, you have, if you think about it, there's a lot of UI in that storyboard file, like many views. And so we need a pointer to go find it, to say in the XML file, which one of these UI, when we call this view controller up, what are we going to map to? Well, that's the storyboard file key. And we have that as text. Now, right now, how I have it working is that the key is the same name as the class. And I have that set up in the Xcode. I'll show you. Xcode takes a few seconds to load. Do I still have it launched? Let's see here. I don't. Let's all go back in the storyboard file. I don't want to get people confused. And if anybody, well, we got a couple of people watching, it looks like here. So I don't want people confused. So let's go into Interface Builder and look at this real quick, so we have a clear understanding of why we need this key and the magic behind what we're going to do doing. It's relatively simple. And so I right-clicked on the storyboard file, went to open with, and went to Xcode. Again, that first storyboard file opens. I'm just going to kill it. Instead, get this open, go by hand in the storyboard file here. So let's look at how keys work inside of the storyboard file. So I scroll down and find this UI component. Right here is this little tiny view controller. This is the one I want. And so when I go look at right here, this icon right here, and I look, we have the class name right here. And that's Graph User Profile Master View Controller. And if I were to scroll over, you'd see the full name there. Well, the storyboard ID, this is the key I was talking about. Whatever this text is here, that's how we go into the storyboard class in C#, and we pull this, because this is all XML. All these different views are XML, and they're in one big file. Well, then it has to have an index to go in and say, okay, I'm parsing this XML file. Where do I get this from? You know, which view is it that I really want to map to this view controller? We have it defined here to say that, yes, these two things should map, and that's important for the builder. When it goes through and it looks at a header file and says, okay, I have outlets and actions I need to map in. Those are important. And the outlet's like a property to like a text box, for example. But really, we need to have this key. So I wanted to make sure to show that this key is then going to link to the key that we're going to call inside of our code to make this swap out. So let's go ahead and close. I don't want to close Xcode, but I want to close this file. And by doing that, I don't recommend keeping this open while you're in Visual Studio. Technically speaking, there's a file watcher on this, and so if the storyboard file were to change by accident, your C# watcher is going to kick in, and it's going to then try to modify the code. And if you're already modifying the code, you could get a lock. Bunch of bad things could happen. You know, a kitten could, I don't know, an internet kitten could like lose its video on YouTube or something. So we just don't want to have that happen. So the easiest answer to this then is that we're going to make a key for it. And I'm a fan of standards, so I already have a standard I made for the Active Directory one, the 801 here. So I'm just going to go find my view controller for the key name here, make sure I have the same thing set up. So you can see here I've got, this is the menu view controller Where is the regular view controller? It should be right here. See the identifier key? And this is a key that we care about. So I'm going to grab this variable and copy it because I'm lazy. I'm not going to save it. And then I'm going to go into here and I'm going to paste that variable name in so I have the same one. And then I'm going to go in here and copy the class name, and that's going to be our key. So that's the very first part. That says that anytime we want to call the this class up from the storybook file, we're going to use this key to do that. So if we go back and take a look at our split view controller now, we've got a pretty good idea what we're doing here. We're saying, hey, anytime a switch view controller comes up, run this code. Well, right now, this is the new hot C# syntax for, I only have a single line in this method, so just run this. But we kind of want this multi-line. So I'm going to switch this out a little bit and say, I don't care about that anymore. I want this different now. I want multiple lines. And so I'm going to copy that and paste it up here. Copy it one more time, paste it up here, and then I'm going to kill that. And if you're wondering how I'm able to do that so fast, that's because I'm using the VI key bindings from the VS Vim project. There's a person on the compiler team, Jared Parson, and then Jason, I always kill his last name, Emerson, I think it is, from the F# team. He's over on Twitter too. You can go find both these people. I talked about them on the Channel 9 team. They made this plugin possible, and it's pretty badass. Oh wait, I think I can say that on Twitch. I don't remember, but sorry about that if that offends you. All right, so how are we going to do this? Well, we know for a fact that we want to swap the view out, and so we have two views we want to swap out now. We want to swap out the left and the right. So we're going to swap out the left by calling this code I already wrote. We're going to reuse this by saying I have this code right here. We're going to say, hey, I'm going to swap out this position. Now I need the key that I was talking about earlier. Well, we know that this is a different class. This is the master view controller right here. So we can grab this text and copy that in, and then we can just say that we want that controller instead. We're going to run both these. We're going to swap both the left and the right out. And what this should do is this should tell the split view to go through and swap out whichever one with whatever it's needed. By theory, this should just work. And we can see here, if we go look at the swap view controller, we go through and we find the position, make sure it's not greater than 2 because theoretically speaking, we only have 0 and 1. And then we go through and we say, okay, let's go find the position of the current item, make sure if it's null. We go through and make a new split item, set the view controller to the one that we passed in. Then we remove the existing one, and then we add in the new one, and then we destroy the existing one to clean up memory. And that's the theory of how we're going to kind of do this. And so when I say swap, it's really a destroy and put this in place than it is a swap. So I'm looking here to see if there's anything going on in chat. There's a couple people watching according to this, but I don't see anybody asking anything. So let's test this. Now, compiling last time killed the stream altogether, so I think I need to look at like how do I compile and not kill the stream. I don't know the answer to that. I know that this is an older MacBook Pro that I'm using right now, and I was using an iMac Pro, and the iMac Pro was handling this with like no problems whatsoever. But right now I'm looking at my stats, and it's like 80% CPU, so it could be an issue moving forward. Wow. Man, that is rough. That is really rough. That is super rough. Yeah, I've got to talk to the Xamarin team about this. That is, I've got to talk to Dominic about this. That is pretty rough. When I compile a mobile application, I don't see this kind of CPU that I see here right now. It is definitely night and day between these two. So that's a big bummer that we're literally killing my laptop. Huh. I'm just trying to think if I could take a video out. Yeah, I can't even offload this really to another laptop. Like a PC to do the video processing because I have multiple monitors. Well, I guess I need a capture card. Boy, that's going to get expensive for this. I think I just need a new MacBook Pro Well, this thing's only like a couple years old. I can't believe it wouldn't be able to handle compiling and streaming at the same time. But I guess I do have this little window of me video, and I've got the main video screen, and then I've got all the audio and stuff. So I guess maybe that's CPU intensive enough. It also takes a hell of a long time to build a Mac application in Xamarin for right now, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm wondering if there's no optimizations for the. We should go. Oh, nope, there it goes. It pops. So this should be popping up right now. There we go. So what happens when we click on user? So I popped the wrong form in. As you can see here, this is the main form from the other screen. So it worked. I just popped in the wrong form. That is interesting. So if we go and look the code, how did I do that? Graph user profile master view controller and graph user identifier key. That's right, and that's right. How is that happening? Excuse me. What is going on here? So the position would be there. That would be right. I'm a little shocked. So we get the message in. Let's go take a look at what that screen is. So the idle view controller, what's its key set to? Token generator. I don't think that's right. Is that right? Because I renamed this a while ago to view model. That shouldn't be right. It should be like that. Let's go check the storyboard file. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, go back to Xcode and take a look here. Obviously, that's wrong. Yeah, streaming on a Mac and doing .Mac development is kind of painful. A lot of beach ball, and I didn't think I would kill a machine like this. Go into the storyboard file. So I want to go look and see is what the main UI is for this form. So let's go and look at the properties of this. It is that. Huh. Well, that shouldn't be working. It should be this and this. I renamed those quite a while ago. That's weird. Oh, this is... I wonder if this is going to pooch me even more. Yeah, I do want to rename it. Well, that's weird. Now that's really interesting. I've got two view controllers outside my graph here. So this one should be in here, and this one should be in here. So how did these get outside the folder? Outside? I created these in that folder. That's another weird thing. So let's see what's going on here. Connection view controller. Connection shouldn't do anything. This thing I think I could delete. That was a different... When I was on the plane, I was playing around with a prototype, and I couldn't remember how to do something, and I didn't have any internet to look it up, so I was playing around with it. But this should be the menu, and this should be the view. And so that key should be right now. So now what I should have to do is go into the split view controller. And so theoretically speaking, because I'm using these keys, the identifiers, I shouldn't have to change any code. The biggest question is when I swap user profile, here's these two things I'm swapping. This should swap out master, and this should swap out this. So let's take a look. And so this should get view controller by key. So we should say by key. We should go in and say if this length is 2, instantiate view controller with key as an NS view controller. That should be right. Let's go and put a breakpoint here. Let's go through and do some debugging and see why this is not working. We also should... So a lot of times there's incremental builds in iOS, and that's how Xamarin makes things so fast. So let's go through here. Is there any option for incremental builds on .Mac? I don't see it. Enable developer instrument profiling. Hybrid IoT compiler. What's this doing for us? Allows for IL stripping but is slower. Hybrid only works in compiling all assemblies and will set to all as result. Well, we don't like slow. Enables hybrid IoT ahead of time compiling, which IL stripping but is slower. Only works when compiling all assemblies and will be set to the all as a result. It seems like it's shiny. Oh, none is by default. Oh, look at that. So let's turn it to none because that's by default. And see if maybe that speeds up things. Maybe this is our problem. Maybe we're turning on a fancy option that just isn't optimized yet. We'll see if we do this and see what happens. All right. See if we can get our debug log open, see what it's doing. It's another thing I talked to them about. One of the things I love is seeing what the debugger is doing, or what the compiler is doing, and that's a lot faster to compile. Holy cats. Okay, that's worth it. So don't turn on AOT because, man, that's a killer of performance. Let's go to the key and take a look here. So what's the first view controller say? First of all, what position we're at. We're at position 1, and who's the view controller at? Token generator view controller. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. And the UI should not be busted. And we should work, right? So let's go to user now. So the first one we should see is a position 0. And view controller should be what? Graph user profile manager view controller. I do like that. So let's go through here and take a look at our if statement. So if, that sounds right. So we'll get item 0. Is it null? It's not null. There's something there. All right. Let's go in and say we want a new split view item. View controller is going to equal the one that we're passing in. And that's right. And then we have the existing view controller, so we're going to remove that. So we're going to remove the existing one, add the new one in on top of it, dispose the old one and set it to null. Continue. And this should be position 1 then. This should be the other one. Who's the view controller for this? This is the profile. That's right. Are we working now? We are not working. We literally swapped out again to this. Why is it? Why is it swapping out? Is it because of position? So this is a very weird bug where if I go back to key, it shouldn't be doing nothing. Or should it be in both? Let's go see what happens. So now it's in both. It's in both left and right. And if I were to go here, I should get a swap out of the right. Yep. But if I go back to user, kind of toast. Actually, I'm not getting anything now. Oh, I've got a breakpoint in, that's why. Let's go see what's going on here. Oh no, that's interesting. I'm swapping out to the last view it saw. Look at this. See what happened was the last view over here was group. So it's sliding over group because that's what I had open. So like right here, let me just take these breakpoints off. I think we can see a pattern what's going on here now and see where this defect is. Group was the last thing I looked at. So if I go here and look, it'll be user. If I go back here, it should be, because this was the last thing over here. And if I go back here and then go to project, go back here, it's project. So it was the last thing over in 1 that it's setting. So whatever's over here, that's what's ending up over here. That doesn't seem right. Why is that happening then? All right. So we're saying get the split view from this position. So if the position, let's walk through this. What's the swap position 0 without 1, for example? Let's take, wait. I've got 2 of these I'm doing that with. Which is this one? All right, no, I am doing it only once. So let's go through and only swap out when the user happens. We're only going to swap out this, but we'd have to swap it back when we try to do the authentication, right? So we'd have to do this in order to make this work. And let's go here, delete that. And so let's find out what the menu is for that. So if we go into ADO, we have this menu. Do we have a key on this yet? We don't have a key on this yet. Let's go add the variable name in from over here. Let's call this identifier key. That's what it's called, the variable name. So let's go ahead and grab that and bring it over here for the menu and make that a key and make that the name of the class. That will allow us then to swap it out. And what we should be able to do is say instead, so over here where we have the authentication, we're just going to copy this one line of code. We'll comment it out. We'll say 0 instead. We'll delete this out and put the other class in identifier key. So the menu. So we should be swapping out position 0 for the menu to go back to auth. So when we go to user, which is right here, user profile, we're going to swap out position 0 with the master view that we have there. And then if we click auth, we're going to switch it back. That's our goal. And so what we want to test is moving back and forth between these two and see what happens if we try to move between these two. I'll also notice that the CPU, now when I compile, when I turned off AOT, is ridiculously better. To the point where I could probably stream still and debug. That's a good sign. So I've got auth open right now. That's this. Now that's interesting. It swapped the views over to this being on the right when I clicked on it. Huh. So can is it because I'm removing it? That's why. When I remove the split item, what happens is it's moving over the one that's in position 0 to position 1. That's why. That's what's going on. Interesting. So can I instead assign it? Can I do this? Can I say this dot split view? Split view items 0 equals split view. Let's try this instead. And then let's go. I bet you this fixes it. And then the theory is we still have the pointer to the one that we're pulling out. And we'll dispose that one right here. So that because it'll lose the reference to it, right? We're pulling it out of the array right here. We'll put it into here. I think this is an array. Yep, it's an array. So we're pulling the item out here, a reference to it. We're checking if it's not null. If it's not null, then we're making a new one. We're taking the same reference. Oop, this should be position, not 0. We're taking the position. We're saying, hey, at this position, put this new one instead. Well, then this should lose reference in the array. It should be out then. And by theory, we could dispose it, set it to null. There's no more reference to it in the array. So I bet you this will fix it. I'm feeling far more confident in this now. This is why we're streaming. Because I was going to do this anyways. And now at least somebody else could maybe watch this eventually and see my terrible debugging skills. So let's see here. If we go here, what's happening? Nothing. Huh. Do I have a breakpoint that's firing? I don't have any breakpoints that are firing. Do I have anything in the output that's firing? Nothing firing in output, yet nothing's working. Are we working here? We're working here. Are we working here? We're loading. Button not working. Why is button not working? Okay, well, let's add a breakpoint in. Let's see what's going on here. Let's also put a breakpoint in the console error line here, so it's going on. Do another debug session. I should have just added the breakpoints in last time, so closing the debugger. So it's good on here. All right, so position 0. We got a view controller, right? Do we have a view controller? Let's do take a look here. So view controller is set to that, and position is set to 0. These are both perfect in our locals. So we're gonna say, hey, get a pointer to it. If not, no. Sounds great. Get our split view. Set our split view. Dispose of the other person. So now if we look at split view, does it, if we go to items, how many items does it have? Oh, we don't want the NS object version. We want the, are these in private? Huh. So I'm going to see if I can see inside here what the split view items, because this is a split view. And this would be the thing that we created here. That should be right. Nothing happened. Token generator menu view model. That's right. So our view controller is not there and our position is set to 0. Can I set the positions? So it says right now there's 2 items in there. There's a split view here. And then, yeah, let's take a look at that after. Let's look at this variable after this the split view items array. Okay, so what's the split view items array now say it has? It has 2. So let's add a watcher for that and take a look at what the value is. Oh, that's right. I have Visual Studio for, I've got the VI plugin and I haven't been able to get this working. Split view item. Split view items. Yeah. Okay, well, that's fixed. So what's 0 set to? What class is it set to? Its view controller is the token menu, and 1 should be set to, what is it set to? It's set to generator. So this is right. These are both right. If we look at it, that's the right view class. So that should be right. If we go back and look at our UI, let's actually just do this so we can see both at the same time. I'll make that a little bit smaller so we can kind of still see this. So that's right. If we go to user, though, what happens? I've got some kind of other class open over here. Uh-oh. Spinning beach ball of death. That's not good. Go to next. All right. The position is 0. That's right. Let's take a look at our watcher after the item's removed. So this should reset it. We're saying position 0 is going to equal this new split view. That new split view should be the user one. The graph user profile master view controller. That is right. And so if we go in, what's our array look like now? Our array says left is still token genuine menu view model. So it didn't take it even though we told it to. So even though we set this, is this a get and set? So that's not working. So is this a, let's make this full screen again. What's the other class we have over here open? Oh, there is no class. Is there only one class open over here? Is this just the silly menu? Oh, okay, well. Let's see what's going on over here. So, very interesting. So if we try to use the array, so let's take a look at split view item. It's a get and set. So it says that it can be set. But for whatever reason, if we set it this way, it doesn't work. What else is available? This dot. there's a swap view item. I like that idea. What's that got going on for it? Let's try that. Let's say position MVC. Wait, really? That looks exactly like we want. We don't even have to do all this work. Wait, what? All right, let's do this real quick then. Oh, let's comment that code out too. Man, if this works, kick myself in the butt because there's a swap option. That sounds great. Let's go see if the swap item works. I should have probably looked at the API for this. And a split view controller. Wonder how good the API documentation is. Let's go take a look here. That's right. So if we go, the swap happens. Wait, why did we come back? Oh, that's me. I'm recursively calling it over and over again. This is the one I wrote. Duh, I'm an idiot. This is my own self. Wow. That's terrible. So that's not working. So that's what I wrote. Wow. All right. It's a long day. It's Friday at 5. So that didn't work because obviously I just recursively call myself over and over again. It's pretty dumb. So remove, if I remove and then add, it doesn't add into the index place I want it to happen at. So this dot remove and there was no replace, right? This dot replace. Nothing with the R's. Swap is the one that we wrote. Well, that's great. That's the music streaming software. Pretzel just died. Pretzel. Yeah, I don't know why that died. Memory leak? Maybe. Not sure. Let's just minimize that though. It's just for like background music in the stream. So what the heck is going on here? So we tried to use the array method and the array method doesn't work. But if well, let's just go look at the Xamarin documentation, see if there's what's available. Let's bring an edge window over here and just look at the documentation together. Xamarin. And let's see, what do we got here in the Microsoft documentation for this? What do we got here? What's available? Grocery shopping for a swapper of some sort to swap out. So we have parent view controller. We don't care about that. We have the split view items. We have that. Methods. What do we got here? Add child controller. We don't necessarily add split view item. That's what I was calling before. But that's not working because it's giving me the index of where to add it to. Dismiss view controller. That's not going to be it. Add additional effects. Nope. Let's see here. Insert child. That's not what we want. Insert split view item. That's another option. What am I doing right now that I have commented out? I'm doing remove and then add. But we want instead, maybe insert is the better answer. What do we have if we do insert split view item? What does insert say it does? It is a mapping to insert at index. And so this is the Xamarin binding documentation for it. I think that looks pretty hot. Let's try that instead. So let's just go here and say we still want the pointer to this so we can clear out memory. So let's keep that. But instead of add, we're going to say this.insert split view item. So we have to make the split view item. So we still make that, but we're going to say we want to insert the split view at position. So instead of add, we're going to try the insert method. This looks a little bit more promising because you give it position, which means we should be able to maybe hopefully swap this out with that. That's the hope. No guarantee on this, but that's what I'm kind of hoping for. So what happens here. All right. Our position 0. We got a view controller. Let's go through this, take a look here. That looks good. We make it. We insert it. Let's look at this. Let's look at the split view items. Who do we have here? Now we got 3 because we didn't pull the old one out. Yeah, that's a bad thing. So let's do this. We don't want 3 split view items. We only want deuce. Oh wait, camera's there. Deuce. Let's see what happens if we do this now and see what's going on. So let's go here. This looks good. That looks good. Remove. No exception faults. Who do we got in the split view array? We have split view items. How many do we got? We got 2. Yay! Who's in 0? Is it the one we want? It is. Oh, snap. There we are. There we are. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, of course, ooh, that's way too big. It shouldn't be like that. It should be like that instead. Yikes. All right. Well, that's a different problem to fix, but it's a problem that we can definitely fix. So we're working with that. So by theory, we have some pretty okay code here. This should be getting rid of that. All right, let's take a look here and let's turn back on the swapping of our position 1 items and see if we can get a consistency working between these two things. And then let's do this first. Debug, make sure it works. And then if this works, I'm going to go through and then go into storyboard file and fix that. So when we swap it in, it's not so freaking big. Its width is way too big. It should be hard-coded at 200 with a constraint. Let's take a look here. Yep. That's exactly what we're looking for, minus this thing is way too big. Huh. All right. We're cooking with Marge here now. Let's go ahead and close this guy out. Oh, no, I didn't want to debug. No. All right. Let's go back to the storyboard file and fix that UI now. Let's go to main storyboard, go to open with the Xcode interface builder, and then see what's going on here. So we're going to go there. Let's see what's going on. Add it in here. Go find our storyboard file. Watch the laptop, 80% CPU. That's gross. Let's go here. Stream's still up though. That's good. All right, let's go and find this UI and fix it. So right here, this thing should have a constraint on it. Trailing spaces, equal spaces. What? I think if we look at the other one, if we look at this one, I think I've got a constraint on here. So constraint width equals 200. That totally makes sense. And that's what we need to do here, width. And let's make that equal to 200. That will probably fix this. Let's save. Let's keep Xcode open, but just close the file out. You can see here that flashed up here. That means that it updated. And our little file watcher clicked. Let's debug again until it happens. We're hopefully here, and we'll have this thing up and running pretty quick here. Working right. If we go, hey, that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, of course, height is really screwed up. Eee. This should be, oh, because this is a scroll view, so it's going to basically not, that's rough. Okay, I fully admit that that's rough. You can see these bars, that's a scroll view. So what's happening here is because it's the scroll view, the constraints doesn't say, hey, make this bigger because we can just scroll. That's not what we want, though. We want it more like this, where we've got a defined height. That looks gross. I do have to admit that the constraint system used to work better in the old version of Xcode. It's been a couple years since I've done Xamarin Mac, and I'm definitely a little bit, I won't say flustered, but frustrated that since full screen came in, this seems to be just a little bit more trickier than it used to be. Like, I think the only reason why the height is working right now on the main screen is because I have it hard-coded. If I look at the token generator menu, if I go look at the other, what's this other one called? Right here, this, you'll see here that if I go look at the bar for this is kind of hard-coded. And I think that this is what it's using then. And so if this is not set to that same thing, 922 by 566, it ain't going to happen, right? Yeah, see, this is set to a totally different value. So if was what? If I go look at this view, 922 by 566, that's terrible. Let's make this something a little bit more realistic. 1000 by 600. There, consistency, I like it. Now, see the little yellow line here? That means that the frame hasn't updated. You know, basically the constraints are there, but we don't have them. You can literally click on a UI component like this, go to editor, and say update frames, and it'll redraw the UI in a way that it's redefined so that it looks right in here. That's a definite thing you want to do. Anytime you see yellow, that's telling you that what you're seeing is not what you're getting, and that's a bad thing. You definitely want to kind of redraw and see that. So this you can see is 1000 by 184. We want it by 600. There we go. And then you can see that the UI kind of got freaked out because of the fact that there's other things on here. So let's move some stuff down so that we have space for it. We're not drawing on top of each other. And we can see here that looks a lot better. Okay. Okay, well, that maybe fix that. So that should be that. That should be that. But this, what is this again? This is of type. This is of type. We're in here. It's a scroll view. Yeah, it would never have its constraints because of that. So the other control will have to do the constraints, not this, because we have it in a scroll view. Ugh. I guess I'm trying to think of what makes more sense. It almost makes more sense that the other side should grow, right? The calculation should be done on the other side. Yeah. All right, let's close this and see if we can debug it, see whether or not this fixed my rendering issue, because then we can swap out the other two screens. And we'll get closer to having this thing cleaned up to a point where I can put it on GitHub and have the UI working decently. Yeah, it's still not right. It's still not right at all. I might have to research like why NS window works like this, where could try to do a clean. I wonder if it's also just that we've got some bad bits. Let's just do a clean. A clean. Mr. Clean. See what happens if we do a clean and a rebuild, see if it works or not. Maybe not, but we might get lucky on this. Because it seems like the 600 height request should have done that because the other view has a 600 height request. Although I didn't check to see if there's a height constraint on it. I should have did that. I bet you that this view controller here has a height constraint on it, and that's why it's drawing what it's drawing. Let's go look at the storyboard file and see if that's the case. That's my guess. Oh, excuse me. It's been a long day. I'll probably stream just a little bit here. I don't got anybody watching but me. I'm the only fool watching this. Beautiful who watch this. All right, let's see here. Talking to myself, I guess. If we take a look here, my guess is this has got some kind of height request on it. Constraint. No. Does something inside have a height request? No. But they all have their own constraints, and their constraints would add up to be a height request. That's what's going on. If we look at the other one, the user profile, there's just not enough stuff here. You know, all this stuff combined isn't going to give enough. So, but what we could do is if we said that we could definitely go into here and make a height constraint. What is it? Or not. Let's tell this thing to let's go ahead and tell it to update frames. Yeah, that's the issue at hand. This view doesn't have enough things in it that would calculate out to be any bigger. Yeah. And if I drag onto itself, it doesn't give me the option. So even if I do that, I don't think it's going to work, because if I tell the constraint, or if I tell the frame to update, it's just going to go back to what it was before. Yeah, that's an issue. Huh. But inside here, no, there is no constraint on it either, because there's enough controls where it's basically just taking enough space to draw everything it needs to draw. I bet you if I put a view inside of a view here that I could do that. There's an embed option. You could say embed inside of something, and you could do that with this in order to do that. The view gets expensive though, and so sometimes it's like that doesn't make sense because the view is so pricey. Instead, you should just be able to put your own constraint in. Now, of course, these are all the constraints inside of the view itself, the child constraints. And these are just the frame settings. Well, it's an interesting problem. I basically want this thing. Oh, I could put a height request on the bio. Or not. Oh, that's funny. Oh, there it is. Okay. Height equals 16. No. No, you don't. How about equals 600? That's a pretty solid, terrible hack. It's still pretty solid, terrible hack. But let's see what happens. Does this at least fix some of our rendering issues? Oh, I'm about to take a nap. Nobody else on the stream. I guess we'll end early today. We'll just get this working. I can watch back and look at the audio, see how the audio is doing. That's what I need to do to improve the stream. So if we go here, that's looking better. That's looking a lot better. So the only other thing I could do is I can make the constraints here and the constraints here, take this out of a scroll view, and let one of these two win. Like the UI would automatically grow to whatever either one of those is. Right now I think I'm screwed because I have this inside of a scroll view. And now I'm thinking that it really doesn't need to be in a scroll view because this or this should win based on whoever's bigger. The height of the window should dynamically calculate based on that. But we now know at least where the next steps are to go for this. So I feel like we're making some progress here. Do I like the transition? Not really. Well, I think if these scroll bars go away, it's going to look a lot more like this. But then the question is, if it were to shrink up, when the scroll bars disappear. Huh. Well, that's a battle, I think, for another day. So I think I'm going to stream again this weekend. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this so that you can select one of these and delete it using this trash icon. That seems like a pretty cool thing. I'm going to continue working on this. I'm going to get this mocked up so it's over here instead. We'll toast the scroll view. We'll see if we can get the screen drawn dynamically. And we'll get authentication working for real. I'll get my Azure AD subscription out. And I'll get a key for this application so that we can actually pull real stuff. We'll get the groups code. That's really easy. I mean, the groups code is very little code to write. And then I want to try to get this out onto GitHub. So that would be kind of cool. We can see this is working and all that stuff seems working. Yeah, so well, we made some progress today on this. Got a couple things fixed, or have a couple of understandings why a couple things are going the way they're going. We'll go through and fix those next time around. So, well, if you're watching this on VOD, I guess thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next stream.